Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Thursday. Let me move that little guy right there, girl, my little snake. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to day number 19 of self love. Again, you can find these on lifehack.org. And I haven't read this one yet. Usually I try to read it right before so I don't, you've all seen me stumble through these like I can't read. But anyways, give up the need for approval from others. We've kind of had this one, but we haven't. So again, give up the need for approval from others. Now, interestingly enough, I forgot I wrote this one down. And yesterday, I had a lot of epiphanies yesterday. I mean, it was magical. So but I actually ended up writing something in here. And now when I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow, I was spot on. So I'll read that after just to kind of share where I'm at in my self love. So here's a quote from Dita Von Teese. You can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be somebody who hates peaches. She's not wrong. All right. She's not wrong. There's always going to be that one person, right? That just, or somebody out there is just like, so, anyways, you don't need to rely on approval from others to love yourself. Giving up your need for approval from others will help you find your happy place and also help you let go of the past trauma and wounds. Sometimes our want for approval is attached to events from the past. I'll get into that. The reality is that when we let go of things that have happened to us, it feels almost as though a burden has lifted. We are no longer required to transport that. Oh, wait. Okay, see, sometimes I just don't read my writing well. We are no longer required to transport that we deserve better. I think that's what it says. I don't know. I'll work it out. I'm sorry, guys. This is why I try to read these right before because sometimes my writing. Oh, anyway, um, so give up the need for approval from others. I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to break this down. Okay, I'm going to break this down by the sections that we're in. You can be the ripest. So Dita Von Teese, this is her quote. You can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be somebody who hates peaches. Now, she's not talking about just, oh, well, I'm not a peach fan, like, right? I mean, I'm not a papaya fan, but that doesn't mean other people shouldn't like it. And that doesn't mean I don't appreciate the pretty outside that it carries, right? And I mean, that's just an example. But I think what they're trying to say is no matter how much, you try to impress somebody, there's always going to be somebody out there that just doesn't care, and using that example is perfect because there are people out there that don't like peaches. But do you think the peach cares? No, because someone right behind them is like, ooh, peaches. So, I like peaches. So anyways, I like canned peaches probably because they're just soaked in sugar. And so I know you're all looking at me like Shelly Marie. So anyways, but yeah, so think about that for a second, right? You may not be what others want you to be, and that's okay because you just need to be you. I'm sorry, I know. Well, it's baseball opening day in baseball. Um, Look, you can take the girl out of San Diego, but you cannot take the San Diego out of the girl. So, anyways, you don't need to. Okay, so let's get into the body of this. You don't need to rely on approval from others to love yourself. I know. Giving up your need for approval from others will help you find your happy place and also help you let go of the past traumas and wounds. Now, we can break that down twice. Okay, so you don't need to rely on approval from others to love yourself. And, you don't. Self love does not require anyone's approval but your own. I have learned that the hard way. I have learned that the long way. And I'm trying to help you all with that because I want you to be able to look yourself in the eye and say, you know what? I don't need other people's approval. Self love comes from in here, right? It comes from your heart. That's why we call it self love. Self love does not require somebody else's input. I mean, unless it's positive input, somebody might come up and say, you know what? You've changed and I can see it. You're more confident or you're more this or you're more that. But if someone comes up to you and says, you know what, I don't like your changes because, you used to be, more tolerant. No, you don't need to be tolerant of bad behavior. If people have bad behavior, that's their problem. They need to work on their own self love. But that's why we talked about boundaries. That's why I did, have like a small thing in here on boundaries because and tightening your circle. Because, there's always going to be that one person. Now, I'm not saying, that one said, that particular lesson said, walk away. No, if there are people we're not going to want to walk away from, we may have to take a break from them, but we may not want to walk away from them. And I'm grateful for that. And the reason I advocate that part is because if sibling had just, walked away from me and not really understood more than I did where I was coming from, I don't know where I'd be today. I don't. But she never gave up on me. She never quit on me. Even when I could be so icky, she just, the word vile is just coming into my head because I could be verbally horrible when I was lashing out because of all my own pain. And, there is a quote that says, hurt people, hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people. A lot of people call it bullshit. I don't. I probably would have 20 years ago because I would have been like, no, but I would fight back on that because I was a hurt person. I was struggling with trauma. I was struggling with wounds, emotional wounds and deeply embedded ones. And, a lot of times we just don't want to face that part of us. And so instead of healing it, we just lash out and have that little tiny volcano moment, right? And, and then we think, oh, okay, everything's better, but it's not because you've hurt the people around you. If you're going to take it out on a punching bag, fine, but you should still do the shadow work to get it taken care of and get it out of you because holding it in, it's not good. It's not helpful. And even if you find other ways to get around it without lashing out at other people, I think I'm going to be honest with you. I think my mom and I had a very complicated relationship when I was growing up. When I became an adult, uh, it changed. Something changed. She's like, "Well, you're always going to be my baby," and it still didn't get better from that, but it definitely made me think differently about our relationship. But I think because I was a hurt person, I took everything personally and I took everything hard. And, my mom grew up in a household where, my mom's old school, and it's like, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And it's like, and when you already have so much in your head from such a young age, it can be overwhelming. And you can be like that feral floof, as I called my inner child, my feral floof. You can be that feral being, trapped in your own body. So remember, you don't need approval from anybody else. Seek your own approval. All right. And I'm not talking about, hey, does this dress look good on me? Now remember, that could be a loaded question. So be careful with that too. Okay. And don't bait people. Don't bait people just to make yourself feel good. If you need to feel good, look in the mirror and tell yourself, hey, you're pretty awesome. All right. I know. So giving up your need for approval from others will help you find your happy place and also help you let go of the past trauma and wounds. Sometimes our want for approval is attached to events of the past. So again, like I was saying, the trauma I struggled with as a child, my family never knew. My parents never knew. Nobody ever knew. And it went on for a very long time. I was groomed very young. And one of the reasons I'm a little more open about sharing the CSA portion of my life is because I want that one person that might see this to really just kind of say, okay, I'm not alone. And to know that as scary and at times horrific that shadow work can be, it saved my life. Sibling got me to the place where I was finally comfortable getting help. And because, she put the mirror up to my face and we had to because I was going down a very dark, bad path. And I'm not sure that I'd be here today, if I hadn't. And I don't want your pity. I don't want you to feel bad for me. What I want is for the people who have never struggled with this to be more compassionate and more empathetic. And the people who have struggled with this to also find your compassion and empathy for one another, but to also find the courage that it takes to get that help that's necessary. If you don't want to seek professional help, or maybe you feel like you can't afford it, I understand that. There's a lot of stuff online about shadow work, but make sure you have, I'm going to call it a shadow buddy. Okay. Make sure you have that very strong person in your circle that when you start to fall apart, you can lean on them. Because when I wasn't in therapy, I usually, it was not in therapy when I'd fall apart. But I'm very grateful that I had older sibling and baby sibling at that point to really kind of just talk things through with. And I also had bestie, but I just, sometimes you get so one track minded, you forget about how tight and how big your circle really is. So, just explain to whoever that person might be, because you may not want everyone to know your business. And I get that. Like I said, this doesn't come from a place where I just woke up one morning and said, I'm going to talk about all the crap that happened to me in my life. No. Um, like I said, I got this from somebody else. I share my story to help other people heal theirs. And I did have a chat with my dad, a long time ago before I started advocating about all this, because, and he had his concerns. Well, people are going to blame me and this and that. And like, no, I'm going to tell you right now, when you're groomed very young, people will say their parents should have known. No, because they didn't. Not because they should have seen the signs. There were no signs, because around them, I felt safe. And so I was able to be who I was. I was able to be me. Now, there were some traits about, like low confidence, low self-esteem, but I was bullied in school too. So, sometimes you just attribute it and you're just like, well, these kids were mean to me today. Well, just be stronger. So they never know until you find your breaking point. And some people never know. Some people never know. And unless, you tell them. So I'm not saying you have to broadcast this to the world, but what I am saying is that a lot of times when we are seeking approval from other people, it's because we can't find that self-love in ourselves. It may manifest in poor relationship choices. It may manifest in poor friendship choices. It may manifest in lashing out at your family. It may manifest in lashing out at, people at work, or just being super quiet, or being that one person that everyone around the cooler says, oh, what's up with them? Because they're, because you're just trying to hold it all together, and that's trauma of any sort, whether you're going through grief. Losing a job can cause grief. Mine did. It sent me into a 5-year, 5-year spiral. A 5-year spiral, guys. I don't know, well, 4.5, but almost 5. No, 5 years. Been over 5 years. And yeah, I didn't want to face it, because I felt like if I admitted that it sent me into a spiral, that they were winning. And so I ignored it, until I finally went back to therapy about 2 years ago. And I thought, on my birthday, no less. I started therapy on my 50th birthday, and she graduated me. She graduated me after about 18 months, going, oh, Shelly Marie, you're good to go. So we have to trust ourselves, right? We have to trust ourselves, and we have to remind ourselves that approval comes from in here, okay? In your heart, in your soul, in the very core of who you are. Not from here, because sometimes this will betray you. Whether you have a dinged up mental health or not, this right here can sometimes betray you. And why? Because what we say is what we hear. It's what we're going to see. What we say is what we hear. It's what we're going to process. And then it's going to end up being what we see. But when we trust our heart, when we trust our soul to remind us of who we are at the very core of who we are, that's the approval we need. That's the approval that we're looking for. All right. So, the reality is that when we let go of things that have happened to us, it feels almost as though a burden has lifted. We are no longer required to transport that we deserve better. I really don't know what I was trying to write there. So, I'm assuming that's what I was meaning. But, let me see if I can put it in different. We are no longer required to accept that we deserve better because we should know it. The reality is we should know it. So, yeah, I'm so sorry. I have no idea what I was trying to write there. I mean, it says transport, but I wrote down all of these on the same day. So, actually, no, I wrote them down at a time. So maybe it's just my punctual. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to spend time wasting your time talking about what I think I meant, but just know that you deserve better. Okay. So I'm just not going to read that last part. So we're just going to say the reality is that when we let go of things that have happened to us, it feels almost as though a burden has been lifted. Ta-da! There you go. And it has. Um, I talked about this on Monday or Tuesday when we talked, or and I was like, fear, blah blah blah, and rejection, blah blah blah. And then I thought, oh, I'm not afraid of any of those things. And then I thought, well, what's supporting my fear? Nothing. I told older sibling, I said, it's like going to a protest with a blank sign, going, why am I, like, what am I protesting? It's like, no, I don't know. So let go of the fear. I know that can be scary. I'm with you on that. I'm still trying to process a lot of things that have just kind of come up and out of me in shadow work over the last couple of days. Yeah, I mean, I've done the hardcore shadow work, but there's still things inside of me that are coming out because I struggle with self-doubt every day. I struggle with self-worth almost every day. And I do these shows because I want people to know I'm in the fire with you. I am in here with you in the depths. I talk about things that are on my mind. I talk about things that, I know I'm struggling with because I don't want to just be talking at you. I want to have, like, I know this is like a one-sided thing because it's a video, but I want to be able to spark that conversation. I know that when, I'm done doing this, or if, I talk to somebody later, it's, these are things that I refocus on. I do my best to not take things personally, which is hard. But, like I said, one of the best things that sibling ever said to me was, what other people think of you is none of your business. And that applies to this too. You do not need to seek other people's approval to feel good about yourself. Now, if you sit there and go, oh, yada, 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 and it's like, oh, well, thank you. Compliments are wonderful. Compliments are great. In fact, even if you don't know someone, if you love their shoes or you love their glasses or you love their lipstick or you love their hair or the way they smell, just tell them. Hey, don't be creepy about it because sometimes I accidentally get creepy about it when I'm like, oh, I don't mean to be weird or anything, but you smell really good. I just can't help it. It just flies out of my mouth. And then it's like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to be so creepy about that. And then, everybody just kind of giggles, but it's like, is it an uncomfortable giggle or is it just a giggle? So, if you ever run into me and I tell you smell good, please don't take offense to it. My brain, sometimes my mouth works faster than my brain can stop it. So I apologize in advance. But, I remember. Okay, I have to share this because this to me is pretty funny. Um, I love hockey, and I mean I love soccer, whatever you want to call it, around the world. But goalies are my favorites. All right, goalies are my favorites. I've absolutely loved goalies because to me, these guys. All right, they are, even the ladies. They're, in like Olympics and stuff like that. They are on the ice the whole time, almost the whole time, unless they're having a bad game. But for the most part, they are on the ice the whole time, and they're just badass. So I got to meet one of my favorite goalies. Did not play for my team. Was a little upset when they saw I was wearing my jersey. Well, his teammate was, but because it's kind of like, what are you doing back here? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, a lot of older siblings, I'll take off the jersey, take off the jersey. So because we won. But I got to meet one of my favorite goalies, and oh my God, he smelled so good. He smelled so good. This was years ago, years and years ago. And he's all, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, all I could say was, you smell really nice. What the hell? I told you guys, I cannot talk to men. I collapse in front of a man. Mentally and verbally, I collapse in front of a man. That makes me nervous because they're just like, so Oh my god, I'm so dense. But anyways, I had to share that for your giggle because this is a tough subject. This really is a tough subject. So there you go. You can laugh at me, but it was funny. But you know you find your funny in your dumbest moments sometimes. But even older sibling was like, did you really say that? And so he signed the shirt that I had. I was not getting a jersey for that, but I had a shirt for his team with his number and everything on it. And she was laughing because 2 days later, I was just like this with my head in. It's like, oh my God, it still smells so good. There's something about a good men's cologne. I'm sorry. It just makes me weak in the knees. So anyways, now that you know something about me, probably not what you should know about me. However, um, I know this is really kind of all over the page, isn't it? But yeah, it's been a morning. My dad had to get some X-rays and labs done this morning, so I'm just kind of like, ugh. So. But you know what? That's why I didn't start it over again because it's me. It's me. You know how goofy I can be, and clearly I have trouble staying on point. So you know, my mind goes in every direction. So, anyways, I'm going to read this again. You don't need to rely on approval from others to love yourself. Giving up your need for approval from others will help you find your happy place and also help you let go of the past trauma and wounds. Sometimes our want for approval is attached to events from the past. The reality is that when we let go of things that have happened to us, it feels almost as though a burden has been lifted. Um, I just want to add one more point to this. When we say, you know, when you give up your need for approval from others, you will, you know, it will help you find your happy place. Um, that's true. Now, mind you, because you're not worried what other people are thinking. You know, I mean, I went to just an event. It was just I think it was Paley Fest, but I had this purple spring dress that I love. And, well, it wasn't purple; it was white with like purple and pink and all these flowers all over it, right? And it was like a 50s style dress, you know, no sleeves, just you know, but kind of poofed out. And I put on my black tights, and I was going to wear flats. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to be walking a lot today. So I threw on my purple Doc Martens. And sibling says to me, or I said to sibling, I'm all, what do you think? And she's all, well, you know what I think. And I'm all like, okay. And she's like, well, are you going to change your shoes? I'm like, no. And she's like, not, then why'd you ask me? And I'm like, I was just curious. I said, I almost did, but I'm all, you always told me to just be myself. And to be honest with you, I would have preferred to wear the Doc Martens anyways, whether I was walking far or not, because that's who I am. I wear Doc Martens with dresses sometimes. And and I was comfortable. But I will tell you this, I got a lot of compliments. Did not look for them, did not ask for them. One person even said, I wish I was that brave. And I'm like, you know what? All I said to them was, don't worry about what other people think. And I actually looked at others older sibling and I said, don't worry what other people think, because not everyone's going to agree with you. And she just kind of smiled and chuckled because she knows I'm, you know, that she has helped me unleash this person that I am. Oh, and I said I was going to read that thing to you that I wrote yesterday. So I discovered some kind of major epiphany things about me and where my self-doubt and everything is, and you know, the whole self-love thing. So all I said was, I have spent decades of my life seeking approval of myself in others. That's done no more. I have discovered self-love. So if you don't like me, step aside because you're in my way. Thank you, sincerely, signed my name. So then I realized I forgot the G in seeking, so I put an apostrophe on it, and I thought, you know what, screw it. Maybe that was the point, because you know, years ago I would have torn that page out or crossed it out and rewritten it on the other side and said, oh, that looks better. But no, I realized I don't give a shit what other people think about me forgetting the G. And I didn't have an apostrophe on it at the time. I noticed it after I sent it to older sibling and baby sibling and said, hey, look, I'm having an epiphany. And it was like, because I was so excited in that moment that I wanted to share that with them. And it was just kind of like, now if I share it with Bestie Troy, he's going to be like, I've been trying to tell you this forever. And he's not wrong. And they all have. All three of them have been. But I really want to drive that home for you. You know, for me, I have spent decades looking for self-love. And I have spent decades looking for my approval in other people. And like I said, I wrote this last night. I wrote this yesterday after yesterday's show. I hadn't seen today's show yet. And I'm telling you, after I write them down a month earlier, I don't remember them. And I do that on purpose because I really want it to be in the flow with you guys. So, what makes me happy about this is it really kind of drives today's point home. Again, for me, I've spent decades of my life seeking approval of myself in others. Don't seek your approval in other people. Find it in yourself. If people give you compliments, that's wonderful. If you dress, hoping people will say, "Hey, I love that," that's fine. That's fine. But don't try to fill your cup with other people's approval. Because like Dita Von T said in her thing, you can be the ripest, sweetest, juiciest peach, and there will still be somebody who doesn't like peaches. So just remember that, okay? You could be the greatest, awesomest, most wonderful you, and there might still be that one person that just thinks, oh God, they're over the top. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. Worry about who you see in the mirror, okay? That's the person whose approval that you need. And remember, make sure it comes from your heart, okay? Because that's what's truly going to tell you the truth. Your spidey instincts, your gut instincts, those are your soul and your heart telling you what you already know. Listen to them, all right? So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelly Marie Lucas on Facebook. Anybody can watch. I also share these to my Facebook page, the Aloha Perspective, and basically across the board, Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Twitter is Shellbell's Quest, but I think it's under my full name. Excuse me. I think it's under my full name. My tummy's growling. So, yeah, or you can find it under the Aloha Perspective. That's where the YouTube is under the Aloha Perspective. So again, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. And thanks for putting up with me going in all those directions today. But I do hope it helped. I do hope it helped. So again, have a great day.